are now entering the Take-Up, a place to gather when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and today I am here with my co-host, the managing editor of thetakeup.com. That is Andrew Wyatt. Hello, Andrew.
Josh, I just want to make something clear. You're a well-known television personality. You're a very well-received film critic. You have this podcast. You're a general all-around respected individual in the community. But I wrote and directed a hit play, so I'm not sweating either.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's Andrew Wyatt. If you couldn't tell, today's episode, we are covering Wes Anderson's Rushmore, and that is the pick of Max Havey. He is bringing in Rushmore as a pick for the Take-Up's Permanent Cinema. And then we will have one more thing. All right, Max Havey, this is your second time here,
yeah,
right?
It's been a minute.
Right? What was it, Magic Mike's Last Dance?
Yeah, it turned into a broader kind of Steven Soderbergh conversation by the end. But yeah, we were talking, I think it was the gems of 2023, I want to say.
Yeah, whatever year that was. That came out so long ago. And yet, here we are. I wonder if we'll talk about Wes Anderson as a whole with your pick of Rushmore. First, wait, who are you? Where can people find you?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Max Havey. I am a writer with St. Louis Magazine. I'm often writing about film, music, comedy, really any art stuff they want to throw my way. I'm writing stuff for them pretty regularly over there.
Very good. And most recently, we did the retro roundup. What were some of your picks? I'm diverting right here at the top.
Oh gosh, yeah. The rep roundup for November. The big one, High Point's doing Sleuth at the end of the month, which is like super duper hard to find. Like it's out of print on DVD. It's not streaming anywhere outside of like bootlegs on YouTube. Ooh. Like that's a big cool one. I've never gotten to see it. I'm like building my day the last Sunday of September around seeing it for that specific reason.
It was one of my show up and you were confused and it's actually the Kenneth Branagh Sleuth.
Oh, both Michael Caine movies. It's really strange that Michael Caine is in both of those movies.
It just says on the marquee, Michael Caine in Sleuth.
My mom loved that movie. She like sat me down to watch that movie when I was little.
It's a good one. Are they doing Death Trap too?
Yeah, they're doing like a whole whodunit holiday thing where it's like it's all in conjunction with Knives Out and Wake Up Dead Man, where it's Death Trap, Clue, and Sleuth.
I love a good mystery. The mystery that we're, I guess, teasing out is that we're actually here to talk about Rushmore. Yay!
This is true.
This is true. Rushmore, your pick for creating your cinephilia. Is that true, or did you just want to talk about Rushmore? Both are fine.
I would say a little bit of both. I mean, I sent you a couple options. The other one you sent, I sent was probably not the right pick. I think the other one I sent was The Act of Killing, which that's a different style of cinephilia that inspired.
Yeah, no. Okay, can we have you'll come back and talk about The Act of Killing, and we're so willing to talk about The Act of Killing. Yeah. I think we might need to plan longer than an hour, and I cannot be on any silly juice at all. That's coffee. That's coffee.
No, that's
folks. Fair. Because I also I was full-fledged cinephile in school. Like it didn't make me a noob, but I think we should use that for the category of like ultimate theatrical experiences.
Well, because not to fully sidetrack us immediately into this, but I saw that by accident at my first year going to True False when I was a freshman at Mizzou, where my friend and I were trying to see some other documentary that didn't really matter. And then we're like, well, this other thing is playing in the 30 minutes and we can queue for it, and got into Little Ragtag. For anyone who's been to True Falls, that is the smallest theater at the festival. We got into Little Ragtag off the queue on Saturday night to see The Act of Killing, knowing nothing about it going in, and both just sat shell-shocked in a Jimmy John's afterward, just being like, what did we just watch?
Yeah, unable to speak, unable to move. All you can do is cry. I mean, yes. Yeah, that was a film that made me, I have never, I can pinpoint a couple. The Blair Witch Project really fucked me up in a way, and I walked out of it literally shaking. And guys, come on, I was like 12, so give me a little leeway.
But I'll die on this hill. Blair Witch Project is excellent and still is a great film.
Oh no, I think definitely at some point have to talk about the Blair Witch Project. I agree. I think it's a banger. But the act of killing is another one that yeah. I guess it's it's yeah, we should save it. We should save that because that's a very long conversation.
No, it's okay.
Well, how about we should have like an entire documentary season for this, so we just don't end up with just narrative features in the vault.
Yeah, that's true. Should we vote? Should we put the act of killing in right now?
No, let's save it. It deserves some discussion.
It deserves a few episodes.
Yeah.
All right, Rushmore, which is
Rushmore,
a far less harrowing motion picture. So where did Rushmore come in your cinephilia?
Yeah, so Rushmore came to me. I was like 17. It's interesting because it was kind of like heralded in as like a thing that I should care about. When I was like 16, I started writing for the teen section of my local newspaper, the State Journal Register in Springfield, Illinois. They had a weekly section called The Voice where teens would write stories. I wrote a lot of film reviews there when I was late in high school. And one of the first things that we did there when I was working with them was creating like a top 5 like high school movies of like this generation and of all time. And Rushmore was like one of the only movies on that list I didn't know about. And I was like, a lot of people were like, oh, that's such a cool pick in there. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. And then I was at Quiz Bowl camp the following summer playing in a trash tournament because my nickname when I used to play Quiz Bowl was the King of Useless Knowledge. And I knew all sorts of pop culture nonsense.
You're saying so many words that are not in the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
What is Quiz
That's what I'm
Bowl?
good for.
What is Quiz Bowl?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's Scholastic Bowl, Quiz Bowl, basically just like school sanctioned trivia, essentially. It's like 20 questions and like bonuses, different categories, lots of stuff.
Sounds fun as fuck. A bunch of nerd shit.
Yeah.
Full nerd here. So, all right.
Correct. Good. But I was playing in a tournament that was all just like pop culture nonsense. And there was a question in there about Rushmore. And it was like, they noted that originally Wes Anderson wanted to only use Kinks songs in there. And I'm like, that's so interesting. I need to watch this. So like a week after that summer camp at the U of I in Champaign, I came home, went to the family video near my house and rented Rushmore. And that's the first time I watched it.
It is like, I don't mean this as a dig or in any pejorative sense, but it is such a cinephile awakening movie because Wes Anderson is so referential and it is a coming of age story. Like it totally makes so much sense. However, I'm going to argue that it's just because his name is Max.
Well, he is one of the great Maxes in cinema. I love a Max in cinema. That's so true. For myriad reasons, I identified with this character. But first, I'm like, oh my God, his name is Max. That was really like the first brush.
You did just tell us you did Quiz Bowl. You were writing for a paper. Were you a bit of a Max Fisher?
100%. I was so involved in high school. I was in an a cappella group at the height of the Glee Industrial Complex. I was in the marching band. I was president
But
of
were
NHS.
you on sudden death academic probation at any point?
I wasn't. I had my brushes with the administration here and there, but usually for nothing too bad.
That's so funny. Did you have a crush on an older teacher? Maybe we shouldn't go down that path.
Like in like an abstract sense, sure, but that wasn't like the heartbreak I was dealing with at the time of watching that movie. That was some much more age appropriate heartbreak.
Okay, good. Well, I feel good about that part. Andrew, were you a Max Fisher?
I don't think I was as accomplished as Max, but I was definitely like, and I was a good student. I was like a very like grades oriented student. So, I don't know. I guess so, but maybe I didn't have like the like absolutely stacked schedule that Max apparently has. Like I had my extracurriculars, but I was not the school icon that Max is apparently or was. he sort of moves his icon status from Rushmore to Grover Cleveland in the first month. I think that's one thing that, like, maybe my memory wasn't great. With this whole movie takes place over like 4 to 5 months. Max has already been expelled like by October. Like most of this film, he's actually at Grover Cleveland, not at Rushmore, which is really interesting in retrospect.
Yeah, because Rushmore's an idea, and I think
Yeah.
it's Bill Murray's character at the end that puts that kind of into it. It verbalizes that, right?
Right.
I was not a Max Fisher in that I well, okay, so I identify with him a little bit because I will do anything to avoid what I should actually be doing.
Yes.
However, the anything that I'm up to is usually for no good. So I'm not a Max in that way. I'm trying to think. This had to have been my first, yeah, because I was paying attention to critics. I was reading like Roger Ebert by this time. I was paying attention to the Oscars. So I knew what Rushmore was, and I'm pretty sure I had to have seen it likely on VHS the year it came out on a VHS.
That's how I saw it. I did not see it in the theater, but I saw it in VHS like right after it came out.
Yeah, they were not playing Rushmore at the Glass Sword Theater in West Plains, Missouri, but I could get it from Video Plus. So I think that, and what a terrible way it had to have been to see Rushmore on a VHS tape, all panned and scanned. But I think I got the vibe. Right? Max, like, can you take us through what Rushmore is? I mean, we don't have to go beat by beat, but give us the Rushmore essence.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about it a bit here, but it's centered on Max Fisher, played by Jason Schwartzman, who is kind of a real bon vivant man about the big man on campus kind of thing, who's not, his academics aren't good, but he's trying hard to do literally everything else, staging plays, founding clubs, saving Latin, things of that sort. He falls in love with a new like second grade teacher, played by Olivia Williams, named Rosemary Cross. He befriends an older like steel industrialist, played by Bill Murray, whose sons also go to the school. After he gives like a real like borderline like anti-capitalist, like, yeah, take the rich kids down speech at chapel at a school where his kids go.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I love that he's writing in the hymnal in calligraphy like best chapel speaker ever.
Yeah.
It's that's such a funny little touch. But Max is doing a lot of stuff in his attempts to, as he's fallen in love with Rosemary, tries to like build her an aquarium without any of the proper permitting, and gets kicked out of the school by the dean, Dr. Guggenheim, played by the great Brian Cox. Gets sent to Grover Cleveland. In this time, he sort of tries to turn things around. Then Herman Bloom and Rosemary Cross fall in love, and that makes him mad. Lots of stuff happens. Prank wars ensue, and eventually, things sort of come around. It's funny talking about this movie plot wise, because I was watching this with my girlfriend to get kind of like back into, because I hadn't seen this since like 2018. I think it had been a while, and like multiple times she's like, "We're halfway through this movie. I have no idea where this is going. Like, what is happening?"
Yes.
Which is a funny thing to think about, because this is like, it's very much kind of a hangout movie in a lot of ways, just like a very persnickety kid.
Max, I want to pivot off of something that you just said though.
Yeah.
About how the Max writing in the hymnal, for some reason he's taking notes in the hymnal, is a great touch in calligraphy, because we've established he knows calligraphy. You said that it's just such a nice, weird little touch. I would argue, and I don't say this as a negative, I would argue one of the defining features of Wes Anderson is that he's a filmmaker of weird little touches. And I don't just mean that from the production design, art direction standpoint, which I think is what a lot of people associate with him. I mean, every aspect of his film is full of weird little touches. The screenplay, the performances. People like to use the word quirky as a pejorative, but I think what makes Anderson such a compelling filmmaker to me personally is that quirkiness is interesting. When he makes quirky decisions about performance or composition or production design, to me, they're always consistently interesting choices, which is what attracts me to him as a filmmaker.
He never just does something. There's
Right.
always a reason why he's doing it. And his style is so heightened and so, people like to compare it to a dollhouse and that he's like moving characters and dolls in his little dollhouse. And I think that's so unfair to him. His aesthetic, resolve is so strong that I see him closer to a Kubrick, a Douglas Sirk, who's like, he is telling stories through his aesthetic. And I think it's interesting to hear and to see him develop as a filmmaker when you get to something like Asteroid City and Phoenician Scheme, to see that he's perfected himself into these little corners that people are still responding even more so than ever, that they're getting a kind of distance from them when maybe the distance is the point.
Yeah.
Well, I would push back. I always push back on that descriptor that, people like to defend Anderson. It's like, oh, he's not just a dollhouse. I think the dollhouse aspect of his style is actually very important. And I want to point out, I don't want to get into a digression too much here, but I want to point out that there's an entire section of the Art Institute of Chicago that in the second basement that is nothing but miniatures. Where a wealthy donor gave like her miniature collection, which when I say miniatures, they're like little tiny dioramas of particular kinds of like furniture designs from certain periods in American and European history that meticulously recreated at scale in these like little glass boxes. It's in like an entire section in the museum that's dedicated to this giant collection that some wealthy donor gave. And Anderson has talked about that part of the Art Institute being one of his favorite things in the world. He used to go down there and just wander around, which I think of as like very obviously very diagnostic of his style. But to go to what you're getting at, Josh, I think a thing can be precious and meticulous and doll-like and also genuine and heartfelt in its emotionality and in its drama and pathos at the same time. I don't think there's this idea that dollhouse equals sterility or distance, which I have never really bought.
Well, it's interesting too because this is so early in Wes Anderson's career. Like this feels less like a dollhouse to me, and like knowing that like the Peanuts are also kind of a pretty big like inspiration for him. This has really more of that kind of like Peanuts and like very handmade quality to all of it. That's something that I really love about it, is that like you have all of the like sets and things that are like for like the Max Fisher productions that are all like very like, there's something really like lovingly handcrafted about all of this, like the sets and the props and all of the things. And that also feels very of a piece with like the way Wes Anderson likes to those like overhead compositions where it's like in that opening shot where he's like laying the paper down and he's got like the teacup and the notebook and everything is like so perfectly placed on the desk. Like there's all of that aesthetic stuff. But then, this movie feels like a little bit less feels less exacting than something like Grand Budapest Hotel, which I think is like maybe the best version of that like dollhouse version of like Wes Anderson that people talk about. But that's all for a reason in Grand Budapest, a film that's all about like overcoming fascism and like, that sort of stuff. That's taken us way off course, I recognize. But
No, I think that's a good point. Like thinking about how this film was sold, like the trailers were all cut around like the prank wars, right? Like this older man and this younger, upstart or whatever, petulant teenager going at war over a woman. I mean, that was essentially the trailer. That's not like all of this film is about their relationship.
No, and Coppa and Owen Wilson have talked about how the genesis for the idea of the screenplay was the idea of a 15-year-old precocious kid and a middle-aged man having a friendship. So the war is like a brief period relative to the overall running time of the film. The film is really about the friendship that develops, the sort of like odd couple friendship that develops between these two guys and what it may entail and mean.
But this seems like a kind of an archetypical Jesus relationship in Anderson is the older, mentee and the younger mentor, right? Or think about Grand Budapest, how Ray Fiennes and the younger actor, I can't remember his name.
Tony Revolve.
Yes. But this gets repeated time and time again. It's always kind of like a stand-in father figure or a stand-in son. But here, no, Max, to get back to what you were saying, your point, it does feel, I know the budget wasn't the same, but it is so far away from what Bottle Rocket looks and feels like, and so much closer to what feels like a full realization of what's happening in his artistic mind in Royal Tenenbaums. It feels a lot closer to that, but it does still have a more, okay, I'm putting it in quotes, realistic, at least, arch to it.
I think location shooting is part of that. So much was filmed in and around Houston. And what's wild to me is I don't think Houston actually get name checked in the film. And for a long time, I thought this was a New England film.
It, like you telling me right now, it's Texas is new information that I don't like, because it is a New England film.
No, Rushmore is the school that the Wilson brothers went to, is my Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another good point, though. This one feels so personal. That's the other thing, that for it being a coming of age or a cinephilic awakening film, it does feel, my objections to the film, if I have any, and it's a film that I watch, and I love pretty much all of Wes Anderson, and this one to me just feels, at least in the filmmaking and maybe in the script, like immature compared to some of the other ones, which is fine. It's just not my vibe. It's not my thing that I'm looking for in him. Something like Asteroid City really gets my brain on fire.
Yeah.
And Royal Tenenbaums is kind of closer to me than this one is. I can the very hangout vibe of it is very it does feel like a young man's hangout vibe. To whereas the hangout vibe of Royal Tenenbaums makes more sense to me, which is I'm an old, crook. Yeah.
No, I get that too. And I think about it a lot where I made a really hasty Wes Anderson rankings in the 5 minutes before I hopped on here. Do you want me to do the full thing?
Do it right now. Do it right now. I want to.
Okay. Do you want me to start at the bottom?
Start at the bottom and then I'll do mine.
Cool. We'll start at the bottom. Isle of Dogs. A movie that agreed. I think is pretty, but I have never had a desire to rewatch it. I'll probably buy the Criterion. I don't really care. Number 2 is Bottle Rocket. That's always kind of been my case. I've always bumped on that movie a little bit. I haven't seen it in a very long time, so that might change, but Bottle Rocket's pretty low.
Let me interrupt here for just a second. My hot take on Bottle Rocket is great Owen Wilson comedic performance, not the best Wes Anderson film.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the short is really good. I think it works great as a short. It works great as a calling card. Kind of doesn't really work as a total movie. Third, and this will be controversial. Third from the bottom is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, a movie I have kind of always bumped on. I wish I liked it more than I did. I like the aesthetic. I like the music. It's not my favorite.
I'm not going to disagree with you. I haven't disagreed with you yet.
Okay. Next, Phoenician Scheme, a movie we're basically everything past Bottle Rocket now is something I like for the most part. Phoenician Scheme, the most recent one. This was kind of a real shooting from the hip. I forgot to add this on here. I like this movie. I think it's good. It'll probably rise if I watch it again. From there, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think the best of his animated stuff. That feels like him sort of recognizing that Dollhouse vision, making that into stop motion animation. From there, French Dispatch, which it's hilarious to me that he made a whole movie that's like, what if I made a visual version of an issue of the New Yorker?
I'm surprised this isn't your number 1 newspaper, man.
Well, I recognize that, but there are higher ones here. I like that one a lot. I especially love the Jeffrey Wright, Stephen Park one at the very end. I think that one's incredible.
Beautiful.
After that, Darjeeling Limited, a movie that I think is sort of precariously placed in there. I think for a lot of folks, I'm still haven't seen a lot of Satyajit Ray films, but I always really loved the like dynamic between Adrian Brody and Owen Wilson and Jason Schwartzman, and the notion of like going abroad to try and find some sort of spiritual awakening or find some sort of like cleanse and finding nothing. It's a type of movie I sort of love, sort of like Tarkovsky's Nostalgia, a film that's sort of like looking and not finding what you're hoping to find out of something that's supposed to be meaningful. And like the thing where it cuts away to the Luftwaffe automotive sequence in there, I think is just like,
oh, so great,
dynamite. That's so good. One of my favorite like Wes Anderson
touches. It's such an underrated Anderson, yeah.
Yeah. After that, Moonrise Kingdom, a great one. We're hitting that's I think the right before the top 5. Moonrise Kingdom, great movie. I'm gonna say that about all of these. Yeah, I don't know. I was a Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout. I used to be a camp counselor at a Boy Scout camp. That one very much like, you know, hits me in a way that I like a lot. After that, Royal Tenenbaums at number 5.
Oh, that hurts me personally. All right.
I know.
Right.
I think Royal Tenenbaums Moonrise Kingdom was number 5. Royal Tenenbaums at number 4.
All right.
I think Royal Tenenbaums and Rushmore could probably that's a real like any day it could potentially switch between 3 and 4 for me. It's so close.
They do feel twinned in some way. Mm-hmm. At least coming back to back in the filmography. And maybe it was because I was so young then. I didn't realize those films came out 3 years apart. It was like hardly anything. But that, right? Doesn't that feel weird to think that way?
That's bananas. Okay.
Well, it also means that Rushmore is a 90s film and Tenenbaums is a 2000s film.
That's true. Well, because Rushmore is 97, 98?
98.
Okay. But I love Royal Tenenbaums and like the way it's like structured like a book and just like all of the very like New York of it all. A Texan's idea of like old school New York is a funny idea to me, and just like there are so many elements of that, and just the Gene Hackman performance in that movie, next level. I think
one of the best.
Despite the fact that they like hated each other, him and Anderson, I think that makes that movie better.
I would say not despite of it, but because of it.
Yeah, you're correct. Rushmore at number 3, and we're talking about that right now. Asteroid City number 2.
Baby.
That was like such a like rapturous experience seeing that in the theaters.
Definitely
2 years ago. And I think like it's such a Rosetta Stone to everyone who's like, those Wes Anderson movies, they're so mannered, they're so like, you know, they're so particular, and it's like, no, that's the point. Like, this is him looking for meaning in all of that like stiltedness. Like, it's trying to find a way through all of that. Like, you have to keep telling the story. Like, that's the mind-blowing thing about that movie, is him like really taking the magnifying glass to like the stylistic approaches and just like blowing it up. I love it so much.
You're the wife who played my actress is like one of my favorite lines of the last 5 years.
And just like them across the street from each other as this is happening is like, so good. Just Margot Robbie coming in for just like a real pinch hit at the end of that movie. Good on her. And then top of the list is Grand Budapest Hotel, which I think is kind of the ultimate Wes Anderson movie. Like, it is a perfect meld of that style for a really specific reason, and like kind of again coming to the point of like, you can have all of this style and all of this like, you know, quirk, but like it all is sort of in service of something. And in this case, it's like, you know, if you are a filmmaker, you're a person making art, it can only go so far when you're like facing off against like a large political force, like in this case, a stand-in for the Nazis in World War II. And just sort of the like the framing of that movie as like the nesting doll structure, I think is so cool. Like I just have so much love for that movie. I saw it 3 times in theaters in like a week when it came out, and then I didn't see it again for I think like 6 or 7 years.
Oh wow!
It's incredible.
Have you watched it again recently?
I've not seen it since I think 2020 when I got the Criterion Blu-ray of it.
Whole podcast episode is one big ad for that box that I have not gotten yet.
Same.
And I say yet because I'm done. Yeah. Even right now, I'm like, why am I talking to these nerds? I need my box.
Truly, the thing that's holding me back from buying it is the fact that Asteroid City's not in it. That's my real take.
Right. I know they wanted like clean numbers on that thing, But we've got a really important problem here, asteroid size problem.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, Max, that was an excellent list.
Thank you.
I'm not going to say my whole list because now I'll feel dumb. But like all these movies mean something to me, even the ones like Bottle Rocket and Isle of Dogs. I mean, those are kind of the agreed upon runs to the litter, I think. But all of these movies mean something, and it every time a Wes Anderson comes around, it's exciting to me. And even when I'm sort of like my relationship with him waxes and wanes because I kind of like haven't watched one in a while. Every time I come around to watching one, I'm like, yes, I do love this man. I forget. Don't let the culture at large influence you, Joshua. You are stronger than this. I want to talk about his relationship with Jason Schwartzman as, actor director pairing and like a pair of creative collaborators, because if this is, maybe this is taking too many logic leaps, but if this is like his and Owen Wilson's like imagined coming of age movie, then they're his imagined avatar, or he's their imagined avatar. And I think there's something so special young. And as it's continued throughout the years up into Asteroid City, and is he even in Phoenician's Game? I don't remember. But he is the lead of Asteroid City, where there's like 80 leads or whatever. But Jason Schwartzman, just as a performer, understands this innately, seemingly, because he has this kind of like flat, platonic delivery, but he's also able to have this kind of like lilt to his line delivery that is so sweet and sincere, and like the register that he speaks in. And even though he might kind of always be somewhat like flat, like he's not a big actor, all of that restraint delivers as big. And it's just the perfect match for Wes Anderson, because I think you could say all the same things about his filmmaking style.
Totally. Well, I mean, and as you were saying that, I started thinking there's probably a comparison to be made between like Francois Truffaut and like Jean-Pierre Léaud and like the Antoine Daniel kind of things, or like the way David Lynch uses Kyle MacLachlan or Laura Dern throughout his work, like kind of as avatars for him, to a degree. I don't know if that necessarily always makes sense, because Schwartzman plays like a lot of smaller parts, especially later on in like Grand Budapest and like French Dispatch. Like he's sort of absent for a few there, and has, I guess, sizable parts in the animated ones as well. But it's interesting because I feel like Bill Murray comes up a lot, because the Bill Murray of this all, I think, is also an important discussion, because this was like really the comeback for Bill Murray. This is the thing that like
was this after Jim Jarmusch's Broken Flowers?
I think it's before, because wasn't Broken Flowers like 2003?
Broken Flowers 2004.
Was it? Okay, so this was the Murray Renaissance.
This was it.
Yeah,
because he was in a period where he's like making, what was that crazy Disney flop? I don't know. He was in a fallow period, and he never really. I mean, he'd done dramatic work in The Razor's Edge before, and a few bit parts here and there, but this is such a reimagining of what Bill Murray could be, that it marked the second phase of his career as an actor. And one that I think he's great in this. I don't mean to say that he's coasting off of this, but over 30 years later, right? Math, a little close to 30 years, it's all owed to this, and he's still pulling from this well, which I'm not saying in a pejorative sense. I'm not. I am saying there's a lot here, and that it was such a left turn that he's been able to go off of it for this long.
I always forget about the little bits of comic business that he's doing in this movie, that I don't know if it came from Anderson, if it came from him or what, but just things like taking both the tiny liquor bottle and the soda can and shoving them under the hotel towels, and then lighting 2 cigarettes at the same time because he's forgotten that there's still one in his mouth. Like, there's just great bits of comic business physical acting that I love in this film from him.
In that same vein, the thing where he's like hiding behind the tree looking at Miss Cross, or when he like jumps over the fence while he's on the phone with Max, just like some of like iconic things in my brain that I think about when I think of this movie.
But that stuff is key, I think, to understanding why he and Max have a friendship, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Herman Bloom might be like a multi-millionaire industrialist, but he still has this sort of like little kid energy tucked away inside of him that comes out in moments like that, where he like bolts away. He like talks to Rosemary and then like runs full
speed runs away
like a kid who's just terrified that he talked to his crush. Like, so that helps unlock why the friendship works, right? That Herman is sort of a little bit stunted inside of himself, and like Max, he's lonely, right?
It's almost as if we're thinking about it in a generational way, that they are in the same cohort as far as mental maturity.
Right.
I mean,
Max is precocious and Herman is stunted, so they kind of meet. They kind of meet in the middle.
It's funny too, because like the point in my life that I saw this movie, I had a like after school job working as a file clerk at a law firm. So I was often kind of rubbing elbows and like usually just kind of bullshitting with some of the older lawyers there about movies and TV and stuff, and just kind of like, doing anything I could to not be doing my job at that point. And so there's the thing of like being the like 16-year-old kid, just like, why are you talking to like a 50-year-old man? Like, what could you two be talking about? And like, I did a lot of that growing up, just because like I see my parents' friends. I'm like, so tell me about what you're watching. What are you enjoying right now? What's the TV show? I can't watch it yet, but what are you watching? I want to know what you're seeing.
Max Havey, you are Max Fisher. I'm sorry. This is why you picked this. Wait, so then if you're that, what did you pick, Andrew? No Country for Old Men? Are you Anton Chigurh?
God, I hope not.
I think you're more Llewellyn Moss, right?
I'm not as capable. I'm not as capable as Llewellyn, which Llewellyn gets killed, so maybe, I guess I'm already like behind.
Yeah. But that's not everyone. And then
Wait,
what did I pick? I picked Far From Heaven, so I'm definitely a Kathy. God damn. Well, this has been fun. No, I'm kidding. Max, you're not a Max Fisher, but it is an interesting character to think about as the center of your film, who's like often extremely repellent and yet never not charming. And at some points you're like, how the fuck is he doing what he's doing? It doesn't make sense. And yet the film is selling it to you. Absolutely. What'd you say, Andrew?
There aren't enough hours in the day for all of Max's like activities and clubs. But that's besides the point. Like I guess one of the things that struck me is how cool the concept is. And some of this comes from Wilson's own experiences as well. The idea of the incredibly precocious and incredibly accomplished, slightly narcissistic, like overloaded with extracurricular activities kid who is also not good at academics. Like that combination is so compelling right out of the gate. When they, when you pitch the character, that's like such a cool concept for a character. And like you were intimating, Josh, that Max is sort of repellent in a lot of ways as well. Like he is a dick. He has these very childish ideas about romance. Frankly, he acts like most 15-year-old boys would around a woman that they are a girl or a woman that they're interested in. And like half the time you just want to reach through the screen and smack him for some of the things he says and does. This time I was like stuck on, oh my God, from the minute that like Margaret Yang interacts with him, she's so obviously into him and he can't fucking see it or even give her the time of day. And I just want to reach through and smack him in the face.
I think he sees it.
He just don't
care. That's
care.
my argument. I think he's more aware of what he's doing than we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's an element of just like there's like a distinct adolescent lack of self-awareness, which like is both his like superpower and his fatal flaw at every turn. And I have a feeling about that for a movie I'm not certain you guys have seen yet that we can talk about maybe off mic.
Well, go ahead. What is it?
Okay. I think that's an element of Marty Supreme. but I don't know if you all have seen that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll save that for a conversation when you guys have seen that movie. But I think that's sort of the interesting thing about Max is that he sort of lacks that self-awareness and is just hosting off of just like the ego of all of it, and that is apparent in like the dinner with Owen Wilson when he smacks his hand with the spoon. Just are they just like doing the worst jokes?
Don't just go over are they? That made an impact. That was in the trailer. That made an impact on me so hard. And you can see like 90% of my humor comes from are they? And I'm sorry for it, but I think it's a great joke. It's maybe not funny at the time.
I think it's so funny. Bill Murray's reaction, the snort he does to that, is like a thing that I do in my daily life when something like that happens. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. That's so funny.
Yeah. It's such a good bit.
My favorite detail that I noticed for the first time after seeing this movie like 10 times, rewatching it again, for never noticing before that Miss Cross is reading Robert Louis Stevenson's Kidnapped to first graders.
It's really funny. Yeah, there are a lot of little jokes in the corners that are great.
But that's what I'm talking about when I talk about Anderson is a filmmaker of interesting choices. Like putting something like that. It could have been anything. She could have been reading Paddington, right? Like anything more age appropriate. But he chose that specifically to be funny and to reveal something about Rosemary and her relationship to teaching and something about the filmmakers themselves, like interests. Like it's just such a great detail.
I don't want to get too deep into it because it is not about this film. We've already had an episode filled with tangents, but I want to refer people back to our previous episode with Drew Wendt and The Graduate, because The Graduate was so on my mind, and because Wes Anderson explicitly calls it out in the film itself and as an inspiration, and Mike Nichols as an inspiration to him. It's crazy how much like he gets from The Graduate, but it is like the script of it is, what if The Graduate, but we did the exact opposite of everything? And I mean, you think about it, like, you know, Max is the same, but the absolute opposite as Benjamin. Because Benjamin can do nothing and Max just has to do everything. And yet at their core, they're kind of the same person. And his older lady affair is like the power dynamics are complete opposite there. But there's also like the Benjamin in the bottom of the pool shot is given to a 40-plus-year-old man. Like, it's just really incredible watching these back to back and talking about them at length. Because they're such different creatures, and yet on the surface or in a log line, they kind of read the same to me.
I think there was a story that Schwartzman was specifically sort of described as a Dustin Hoffman type, which was not necessarily the type that they were looking for when they were trying to cast the film initially. But Anderson liked him so much that he decided, okay, yeah, let's. And it changed, obviously, casting Jason Schwartzman. As opposed to, I think they said that Macaulay Culkin was considered at one point. Whoa. It changes the energy so much to have, as he says, a Dustin Hoffman type in the role.
Macaulay Culkin would have been so great in this. That would have been incredible.
A very different kind of film.
Movie.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting like thinking about him in like Saved like 2 years later, and like he's like kind of just like subdued and smarmy in that movie. Him as Max Fisher is like a totally different animal, I feel like.
That is really crazy. Like, I want to see that version. I would never give away my Jason Schwartzman and in this in particular. But I want to see the Macaulay Culkin version. That's crazy. All right. Andrew, I think we've come to a point where we have to decide if Rushmore goes on our Mount Rushmore of films. Is it called Mount Rushmore? It is.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Okay. You know, sometimes I get confused. But I think we need to vote and see if we're going to keep this one and delete all films ever in a fiery blaze of glory. I don't know. Anyway, Are we going to put this in the Take-Ups bunker? Are we keeping it for the permanent cinema?
I'm voting for it without question. This is an Anderson canon film for me.
It is. Okay.
Probably top 3 for me.
Okay.
And I'm almost from, like, as much as I love Anderson, I'm actually a big like booster of late period Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of amazed at myself about how consistently this film has stayed in like the top 3 Anderson films for me. I love it. It's a film that sparks joy for me, and that counts a lot for me. Like I think some of his other films are a little headier and more interesting and more developed and more precise, but this is like a absolute. Every time I watch this, it puts a huge fucking smile on my face, and that counts for a lot for me.
All right. I think for the reasons I've already said, I'm not voting for it, but it doesn't matter because it's in. Max,
incredible.
Congratulations. You've nominated a film that is going to be saved forever because we have those powers here.
Yeah, because
incredible.
We can do that.
I'm so honored.
Definitely do that. Okay, well, let's run it down. We ran it down the last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Far From Heaven,
mm-hmm.
No Country for Old Men, Taxi Driver,
mm-hmm.
One Battle After Another, our latest.
Mm-hmm.
Another latest is Misericordia. Just sitting around looking at everybody else like, do I belong here?
It does. We voted on it. It does.
And it does. And now we've got Rushmore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, you're at 3 votes.
Oh, no, you missed The Graduate. We added The Graduate.
You added The Graduate.
Yes, I did add The Graduate. I like The Graduate. Since we talked about it, I do like that The Graduate and Rushmore are both in here.
They're next to each other. All right. You've got 3 votes left. I still have 4, which means I'm gonna run out of time. Versus
no rollover.
Votes.
No rollover.
No rollover. Unless we get 4 like Josh Ray picks, I'm gonna burn votes. Shit. Oh God, what am I gonna do? Yeah, I'm sure this is a lot of fun. I know what was fun. Having Max Havey on here.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. It's always a delight to come on here and talk. I have the tendency to take you off on real blank check-esque tangents.
That's fine.
I love being a chaos muppet for this program. It's a great time.
Yeah, but next time we have to record for 3.5 hours. And then it's
that's
a real
fine.
blank check episode. But you're gonna stay because I remember when we were talking, you have one more thing.
I do indeed.
We're gonna save it for last. I'm gonna go first. Andrew, and Max.
Yeah.
Pluribus, anyone?
I don't have Apple TV right now, so yeah.
Doesn't everyone just have Apple TV?
No.
How does this work?
I'm like trying to save money right now, so I cut out a lot of streaming services.
But I don't pay for Apple TV, and yet anytime I go to click on something, it just works.
You have some kind of Apple Music app
Yeah, I do.
Apple One, I think.
No,
it's
I
bundling
know.
with something else. Who the hell knows how it works?
I'm just bad.
I've heard nothing.
Ethan in the background. Ethan, you say nothing. You verbalize nothing, but you have chatted to it. Pirate it. It's so good. Okay, so this is Vince Gilligan's newest television show called Pluribus. Starring Ray Seahorn, and as a writer who on their latest tour, book tour, and she writes these kind of like good but maybe TikTok friendly romance novels about Ethan, your joke is good, but like pirate fantasy, and absolutely hates it. She's a woman with an axe to grind about just about everything, but something happens in the middle of it, and I kind of don't even want to say what that is, but there are 4 episodes out now, and this is among the most thrilling and thought-provoking television I've ever seen. It's not only in its execution, which if you've watched Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, you know is very cinematic, but the way Vince Gilligan and his teams are interested in the kind of execution of processes or the execution of ideas is just hugely a part of this, and it has filled my thoughts, even when I'm not watching it, about how the thing at the center of the story works. And I will say a few things: that it is very like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's very like Night of the Living Dead, but I'm not going to say anything else about it because it's such a unique concept, a unique spin on those things that it even over 4 episodes, you think you know how it works. It continually kind of upends your expectations of what it is. And it's just a gorgeously executed TV show too. And it's on Apple TV Plus, which you probably have. I don't know.
Is this going to be a limited series, or is this
Who
multiple seasons
knows?
planned?
It's been hugely successful. And from what he said, I think he said something about 3 to 4 seasons in his mind.
Yeah.
Max, yet? Does that sound right?
That sounds right. I did also want to note, Letterboxd just put out a thing, like I think yesterday, that was like Vince Gilligan's like 10 films that inspired Pluribus. And you named a handful there. The one you didn't note that is number one on that list, Hirokazu Koreeda's Afterlife. I'm so curious as to how on earth that is an influence on this.
Yes, you are.
That's the thing that makes me want to watch this. I'm like, Vince Gilligan referencing one of my like favorite movies of the century.
Yeah.
One of the great movies.
I see it. It is there. It is all over it. So now I'm thinking about that. But it is such a character-rich show too. And I'm just fascinated by it. I really have hardly ever thought about a television at this level 4 episodes in. So that's Pluribus. It is on Apple TV Plus. Andrew, you go next. We're going to save the best for last.
Okay. Last weekend I was not feeling particularly great, so I did some comfort watching for me, and for me, comfort watching means Japanese monster movies.
Okay, go on.
And I filled in a blind spot in my Godzilla filmography that I had never seen, which is Destroy All Monsters.
Okay.
Which is a great movie. I love it. It's a bad movie. Okay. It's a
no. I gotta say, in the middle of your recommending it, I think it's a like 3 out of 6 Godzilla movie.
Okay.
All right.
I love it to death now, having seen it. This is like, to me, this is like part of the Godzilla, the Toho Showa era Godzilla Rushmore now for me. So it's a bad movie in the sense that it's low budget and it's a goofy premise, right? It's a kaiju film. But this is the Avengers Endgame of kaiju movies from the Showa era for Toho films. The idea being that they basically took every kaiju that they had access to, including kaiju who weren't Godzilla kaiju at that time, and shoved them into a movie about like alien invaders taking over Earth. And I don't know how to describe it. Like the entire premise of the movie starts from an incredibly cool sci-fi premise that they discard in the first 5 minutes, which is that the world governments have like confined all the kaiju to a single island where they sort of have them under control through all these elaborate technological means and are sort of keeping them there to keep the world safe. These alien invaders come to Earth and break the monsters out and sort of take over them through remote control and are using them to destroy every major world capital. It's the goofiest low budget shit you've ever seen, but I loved it. And part of the reason I love it is the idea that a low budget goofy ass B movie can be made with craft, intelligence, and vision, despite how goofy and low budget it is. I really appreciate that about it. Even the non-kaiju stuff, sometimes people talk about with the Godzilla films and other kaiju films as being like, whenever the monsters aren't on screen, it's not interesting. I think Destroy All Monsters is a cool sci-fi film, even when the kaiju aren't on screen, which is pretty neat. And it had maybe the best sort of like meta viewing experience I've ever had, which is I'm sitting there watching it and I'm thinking, this is really cool. Like my inner 11-year-old who watched these movies on UHF channels and on Saturday and Sunday afternoons and heavily edited English dubbed versions is really getting off on this. And my wife walked in the room and she's like, "Oh, what is this?" And I was explaining, "Oh, it's like this kaiju team up film. Like all the kaiju are in it, except King Ghidorah. He's not in this." And then a minute later, like King Ghidorah shows up for this insane climactic monster on monster brawl, which is like it's so perfect. So highly recommended. Like a lot of the Showa era Godzilla films, I believe this is currently streaming on the Criterion channel, which is where I watched it, as well as a few other places. But if you love sort of like mid-century Japanese sci-fi films, and the models are great. Like that's one thing that people
I
complain
think
about.
they look great.
Models.
I know you keep calling them low budget, but you know, the limitations of technology, I think they look great. But I'm
Yeah,
also like, I've seen all of them
yeah.
and am in my Godzilla era still. You know, this is one of the most like, and then
Yes.
movies like a 5-year-old
They-
writing, and then the other monster coming, and yeah, it's so like that. I love
There's
it
like a
so
new
much.
there's a new sci-fi twist to the premise like every 15 minutes. It's
Hell
nuts.
yeah.
But just a lot of fun. And again, sort of my inner child who loved watching these crappy movies on television in their edited forms, loved sort of revisiting them in beautiful high def in their original Japanese, which was a lot of fun for me. So highly recommended. I mean, go see all the Godzilla movies, but this one is actually like an uncommonly great Godzilla movie.
Very good. All right, Max.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Josh and I were DMing, I think right around when Sliff started. We were talking about some stuff that was playing the festival, and one film in particular I was excited about that I had seen earlier this year at the True Falls Film Festival, a festival that is near and dear to my heart that focuses on nonfiction filmmaking, both in creative and traditional sorts of ways. One of my, I think maybe my favorite thing, I'll say one of my favorite things that came out of the festival was a documentary from Ian Bell called WTO 99, which is an archive documentary that uses entirely archival footage telling the story of the WTO, World Trade Organization, protests in Seattle in 1999 and sort of the police militarization that came about as a result of an otherwise pretty peaceful protest, and the way the way that was sort of a unifying front that like sort of crossed a lot of party lines and a lot of class lines and just got to some really interesting stuff, and feels very similar to it feels like a precursor to the world that we live in today, where we're seeing, you know, militarized occupations of many major US cities with the National Guard, police forces, what have you. I saw this in February, and just as the year has gone, I'm like, oh my God, this feels more and more relevant by the week, and is so interesting. It feels like a good sort of companion piece to a movie that I also saw at True False from a few years ago called Time Bomb Y2K, which I think is on HBO Max, and I believe is edited by the same person who edited WTO 99. Awesome movie. One of my, like, I was also working on my year-end top films list, and WTO is very firmly in that top 10.
The methodology sounds very similar to the film LA 92, which I don't think it's the same filmmakers, but that using exclusively contemporary footage to assemble sort of a historical record of the event.
And there were just like so many people on the ground with like camcorders, people who were like filming it for themselves or filming it for news stations. And the way that, like, you know, so many folks were not getting the full story out of it at the time. And just it's such an interesting, like, just insane moment in history that I didn't know anything about, because that was, you know, I was very young at the time that was happening. So I did not know what was happening. And it's a hell of a watch. I love it so much. And the great thing is, if you missed it at Sliff a couple weeks ago, it will be playing at Arkaden coming up for 2 nights on December 5th and 6th, I believe, or 6th and 7th.
Oh, awesome.
5th and 6th.
Okay, 5th and 6th. Yeah, it's the Friday and the Saturday. It's so good. You should absolutely go see it. It is fully just one of my favorite movies this year. I could not praise it more.
I will say that I was on the jury for Slift documentary. Look, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, I watched a lot of documentaries from Slift. And the jury unanimously voted for WTO 99 as the winner of the award for this year. It is as urgent and thought-provoking and a really just well put together too, like a thrilling in a way narrative, and all the kind of prescience of it. There's not too fine a point on it. It's not like Orwell 2 + 2 = 5, where you need like huge text on the screen that says, "This is just like now." Have you guys seen that yet?
No, I missed it when it was playing locally.
Fucking bummer. But this this film knows that you're smart enough to understand that the whole point of history is that it is trying to teach you a lesson, and we fail to learn that lesson over and over and over again. But yeah, so I second and third and fourth your pick, Max. I think it's great.
Definitely.
All right. Well, Max, thank you for returning to the podcast. We definitely want to have you back. But
absolutely.
In the meantime, Max Havey, where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm at Max Havey on pretty much every social media platform I can take the handle on. Usually mostly active on Instagram these days, but I'm still around on Twitter, sometimes posting works, rarely posting on Blue Sky, but I'm there too. Letterboxd, of course, I'm there as well. And then keep an eye out for my work at St. Louis Magazine. I do a monthly article there called the Rep Roundup, where I pick about 10 movies that are happening during the month that are playing in rep just about everywhere around the city. I usually try to get representation from most of the theaters. I'll have, by the time this episode comes out, the December one will probably be done and up as well.
Do we get a preview?
Yeah, I can tell you what I have on the list right now.
Max, I have to tell you that I use your article as a resource frequently for segments that I do at KMOV. So thank
fantastic.
you.
No, you're welcome. I pitched this to my editor, my dear friend Christine. I pitched this idea to her last summer. We were at an event. And I'm like, hey, like I feel like I'm always looking at what is playing around town. I feel like, would you be interested if I just like wrote up like 10 movies? She's like, yeah, sure, why not? And so we've been doing it for a year. I want to keep doing it. It's so cool. But yeah,
it's
some
necessary.
of the stuff coming up,
it's
very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. We also just have like I feel like I say this every time.
The community is growing, and yeah,
we have so much stuff around. Like it's an embarrassment of riches in terms of screenings to go see.
Yeah.
In terms of stuff that's coming up, Night on Earth at Arcadon looks great.
Great film.
I've never seen it. I'm really excited to see it.
So good.
The Nice Guys is playing High Point for their Christmas program. Josh, you might know about this one. What's Up, Doc is playing Webster on the 7th.
Wow, what's that about?
What could that
What's
be about,
Doc? By the way, we won't be recording an episode on the 7th.
You don't say.
Nope.
Millennium Mambo at Webster, also a movie is that Ho Xiao Shen?
Yep.
Yeah, one I've never seen. Excited to see that one.
Oh, Max, if I don't see you there.
I missed it. It played Webster a couple years ago, and I missed that restoration. Yeah. I got to see it this time.
Yeah.
So I think High Point also just announced they're doing Breathless in conjunction with Nouvelle Vague, the Richard Linklater movie, which is cool.
Very good.
Some others, Batman Returns in Bruges at Arcadon. High Point's doing The Apartment. Eyes Wide Shut at Alamo, and then there's a final one here that I have written. I don't think it's been announced yet, so I won't say what it is. But there's a really cool one at the very, very end of the month.
Very good. Well, then you've got to follow Max to figure out what that will be. And Andrew, guess what our next episode is?
Ooh, I don't remember what.
We haven't talked about it. That's why. But we're going to be talking about The Secret Agent.
Oh, okay.
You have access to that, right?
And I haven't seen it yet. And I loved the documentary that sort of serves as its seed. So I'm really eager to check it out.
Ghosts.
Yeah.
And that's by Colbert Mendonça Filho.
Yeah.
we're going to practice that a lot. But that's coming out shortly, and that's a film that that I love. But you'll be able to see it locally shortly too. So that will be next week. And until then, you'll be able to find us at the Take Up STL. All of our work at the take-up.com. And I want to thank Ethan Tarantella for editing and helping produce the show. Kayla McCullough for social media. Theme music by AMP. And I won't sing a song that is not in Rushmore this time. And I figured out why I thought that song. It's the I can't remember what it is. I ran out of steam there at the end.
This is good podcasting, people.
Oh yeah, a quick one while. Oh no, sorry, Making Time by Creation.
Yes, that one. I thought that was The Passenger by Iggy Pop. And I sang The Passenger last time, and Andrew was like,
wow, ouch.
Goodbye.